My name is Hassanatu Mansary. I'm a senior policy specialist with the African Development Bank. And the African Development Bank is the premier developmental finance institution that is tasked with alleviating poverty in Africa. So our goal and our objectives is sustainable transformation across the continent. So the bank in 2016 launched its High Five initiatives which are Light Up and Power Africa, Feed Africa, Integrate Africa, Industrialize Africa, and improve the quality of lives of the people of Africans. So, and that is to support our 10-year strategy, which is inclusive growth and gradual transition to green growth. So in terms of the youth agenda, we have to support the improve of quality of lives of the people of Africa. The bank launched in 2016 its Jobs for Youth in Africa initiatives. And that initiative is to create 25 million jobs for Africa, which will equip 50 million youths with the right skill set for them to be able to gain meaningful and quality jobs across the continent. So in that regards, the bank has been involved, has three pillars, which is integration, innovation, and investments. So we have a very credible record because we've been in operation for over 50 years in the youth and gender, the marginalized in society, which normally includes the youth and female across the continent. So in terms of private sector, we believe that, of course, private sector, in my opinion, is the engine of growth. So in the Jobs for Youth initiative, for Youth in Africa initiatives, we're developing an entrepreneurship and innovation fund in Africa, which is a multi-trust fund, and that would help in our operational and financing instruments in supporting the youth employment agenda. Because if you see currently, you have 450 million youths on the continent, and we have a deficit of 8 million on the continent in terms of jobs. So we need to create jobs for us to be able to promote economic development on the continent. So we have that, and there's another key an interesting one in terms of integration. The bank has partnered with the International Labour Organization, and there we're trying to how we can mainstream job employment into national policies on the continent. So I think we're as a bank, we're very much involved because, of course, the youth is the largest proportion of the population, and it is the future. And it's imperative, if we want to alleviate poverty on the continent, you have to include the youth. So we have a lot of dynamic programs. Even last week, I think on the 27th of November, the president launched its presidential youth advisory group, which is made up of 9 notable young Africans under 40, and they will be tasked with coming up with innovative solutions to promote the youth agenda. And it's also evident with the president's appointments that he's making, with a lot of senior management positions going to young people, young adults. So in terms of engagement with the youth, we do help entrepreneurs in the agricultural space as well, because in terms of, so you were talking about private sector, so we have something that entrepreneurs where you're supporting young, first of all, for them to know that agriculture is sexy, agriculture is the way forward. So we do a lot of different, lending to youth in terms of SME development, and we do a lot of innovation competitions that we involve the youth. The Jobs for Youth in Africa initiative, I think it is the biggest initiative or drive for job employment on the continent right now, because when you look at Africa, in terms of the demographic dividend, it is only normal for us to be able to engage these youth. The reason why you see, the vast migration, and of course the topical issue now of the migration back to Europe, is the fact that there are no opportunities. I look at it, and I'm coining it now as the difference between a hopeless reality and a hopeful uncertainty, which probably will the youth end up being in the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. So in terms of that, the main problem and the youth's need is opportunities. That is what it is. The difference between myself or somebody who is trying to raise funds to move is the fact that I had the opportunities. So we have to create opportunities across the board. We have to provide political and social stability to be the norm in Africa, for the youth to be able to engage actively in terms of economic development and economic empowerment. So I think the bank, in that basis, we're trying to work with governments as well, because of course you have to have the right political and legal and regulatory frameworks on the continent that would help in this organizations, the governments and private sector, to create jobs for these youth. And the main thing as well is skills development. I think that is the problem as well we're seeing on the continent, that with the 420 million youth, and it's projected to rise to double to about 830 million youths, what do? We have to develop and harness the potentials. The youth today are dynamic, they're hungry for success, they're hungry for a better life, they're entrepreneurial, they're creative. So you have to create a space where you absorb these youths, or even give them, the other main thing is access to capital. Even as an African, let's forget about youth. It's very difficult for an African with no backing for you to go and get a loan. So what we do is trying to create different, dialoguing with the youths, of course, because they have to have a seat at the table. If you don't have the youth, the problem has happened, and that comes as well with the gender of female empowerment, is you have to have a seat at the table, and we have adaptable solutions to the problems that the youth face on the continent. So I think the Jobs for Youth in Africa strategy is trying, as we say, 25 million jobs, but it is ambitious, but it's doable. So it's about collective, strategic partnerships that we're having with different sister institutions, private sector, public sectors, and more. I think the strategy aims to work with government for us to be able to harmonize youth employment policies in their country development plans. So in terms of that, our target is 2025, and I think since the launch last year, we're making really great strides in achieving that.